So, 29 things they don't tell you about CNC routers. Number 1, sanding. It is way more sanding than you can imagine. If you are a lazy person like me and you think that CNC machines will build furniture for you, you're wrong. Sanding doesn't go anywhere. CNC machines can't do sanding yet, and hours and hours of sanding are required to achieve great results. Next, finishing. Even if you cut parts fast, and even if you find someone to sand them for you, finishing takes time. Good finishing takes even more time, and especially if you're doing outdoor furniture, finishing could take several days, several layers, 8 hours between layers, sanding between layers. And if your chair like mine has like 108 parts, that's a lot of sanding and that's a lot of finishing. Next, noise. CNC machines, CNC routers, wood CNC routers are noisy. There are some measures to remove the noise, but even if you buy a water-cooled spindle and even if you put your vacuum somewhere outdoors, there will be still noise of wood being removed. That noise will never go anywhere, so it's pretty loud. Although I was running my CNC machine in my bedroom for quite some years, several years, and it is possible to do it semi-discreetly in daytime if you silence the whole room. Next, finger joints suck. So finger joints are those like castle joints, when plywood is connected like this, and they might seem like a good solution, like a good joint, but in reality they depend a lot on plywood thickness, and plywood thickness varies, not between brands and not even between sheets. Even in one sheet of plywood you might get different thicknesses in the beginning and in the end. So we can't rely on plywood thickness, and finger joints, they are either loose and too loose if the plywood is half millimeter thinner than you expect, or they are too tight if it's a little bit thicker. Next is CNC routers can't make sharp inner corners, and a lot of furniture does need that. If those castle joints also, you want to make a square hole, but you can't make it because the end mill is round and you can only make round corners. You might use a smaller end mill to make tighter corners, but that's all you can do, and the smaller end mill of course will be much slower. Next, need to learn a lot. So if you don't like learning, that might not be your thing. CNC machines require a lot of learning, and especially if you go the DIY way like me, there's no one source that you can learn from, and you might want to try to learn everything before you buy a CNC machine, but then you will discover that the reality is actually what teaches you. So I don't recommend learning a lot. I recommend getting a CNC machine as soon as possible and start learning. Get something cheap and then make all the mistakes on a cheap machine. Next, need to embrace errors. So errors will happen. Your machine will crash. You will mess some parameters. You will see how it can flex and how it can damage itself sometimes. You need to be prepared for those, and you need to account for those. You need to look philosophically on errors, because without errors there's no learning. Need attention to details a lot. I was thinking that I will build a machine this and that, like quickly build it and then it will start working, then I will improve on it. It doesn't work that way. If you don't pay attention to details from the beginning, the machine will cause you a lot of headaches. And the easiest way to fix those issues is to just disassemble the whole machine and reassemble it again properly. And the next one comes from it. Calibration is more essential than I was thinking. Once again, I was thinking I will be assembling the machine quickly and skipping the calibration until the moment when the machine moves smoothly. But the machine will not move smoothly if you didn't calibrate it properly. So calibration is the key. You need to go through all the steps, adjust all the parameters, calibrate everything like the manufacturer of the machine recommends, and then do the trimming and do the stuff like that. Without that, you won't get the proper bed leveling, and without proper bed leveling, nothing good will come out of your machine. Next, you need to always hear the machine, at least hear. Ideally, you need to always see it. You need to always look at it. But I understand that no one would actually stare at their machine for hours. So at least you need to be at the same building and you should hear it. You should hear the machine. And when something wrong is happening, you need to be able to quickly reach the machine and stop it until it damages itself. Before it damages itself. Next, there is a huge void of friction between 3D models and G-code. And that's actually the void that I'm trying to fulfill with my designs. I still don't ship G-code, I just ship the curves, but still, even if you are able to create a 3D model, and even if you downloaded one, you still need to create paths. And paths don't always match the shape of the parts. You sometimes need to do multi-pass, like going into like in a spiral, and then sometimes you need tabs, sometimes you need to slow down in corners, sometimes you need to drill something, lifting the end mill so it can cool down. It's called pecking. So there's a lot of nuance into this, and so if you have a 3D model, it's not straightforward to convert it into G-code. Next, the components of DIY CNC machines are cheaper than you might think. So if you go the DIY way, and if you have a good supplier like I had in China, you can get the components almost like at the price of a coffee. So for example, NEMA 23, quite powerful big motors, I think I paid like $18 per piece. And of course, I know these kind of problems are happening right now with China, taxes and stuff like that. I think Stepper Online has a warehouse in US, so I think they have it handled, and they can send it from the US, so there's no problem there. Extrusions, belts, any kind of transmissions, all of those things are super cheap because they are not complex. These machines are very, very simple actually, and that's why they are so reliable and precise. So I think that you can build like a Queen Bee machine like I had. You can easily buy the parts for $1,500, I think, maybe $2,000 with shipping, and you will get a 4x4 machine that is capable to make my chairs, cut them in like 3 to 4 hours. Controller software is either outdated, expensive, or buggy. This is a big issue. I still haven't found the software that can run my DIY CNC machines without errors, with good UI, with good support. I still haven't found. I heard good things about Maso controllers, and maybe they are good, but they are super expensive. Maso controller costs like my whole machine, and in Asia we were not able to get those. So my controller of choice right now is DDCS 4.1 with 48 volt power supply, separate power supply for the drivers, but it's still far from perfect. Next, you can't just cut on one side of the part, flip the workpiece, and cut on another side. The moment you flip the piece, you lose the zero, and the sides are not synchronized anymore. You can't just do it easily. You can find a ways to drill holes and then use some guides after you flip, or you can cut out some kind of a holder or template, custom template, where you can easily flip things. But it will require extra thinking, extra planning if your parts require machining on both sides. Next, it's not easy to restore the job after a blackout. Again, some controllers might handle it well. GDCS has some kind of a feature that allows you to restore the program. Nice, but not all controllers have that feature. And if you have a particularly long job, if you're doing carving like for 96 hours and then in the middle of the cut you have a blackout, it's not that straightforward to restart. You will most probably have to restart the whole program. You can't just swap the end mill and continue the cut. Again, if your end mill broke mid-cut, there will be some extra steps before you can continue the cut. So you will need to go back, you will need to change the end mill, you will need to reset the zero, and then you will need to find the moment where it stopped and then somehow continue the program or edit the program manually. Chip loads and feeds are super complex to understand, and not all machines can run at the speeds that the bit requires. So yeah, chip loads are super difficult to understand, but you don't need to. Experimental way is the best way, and you will figure it out eventually. So there is one problem that, for example, for plywood, that the recommended cutting speeds start at 5,000 millimeters per minute, which is 200 inches per minute. And some machines just can't go that fast. And when you go faster, stepper motors become weaker. The torque is lost. So stepper motors are strong when they're slow, but not so strong when they're fast. So it's a compromise always, and not all machines are designed to have a good balance for plywood cutting. We actually have carving machines and cutting machines, and that's the difference. The difference of carving machine is that it can remove only small layers of plywood, and that's why it can go slow. So it doesn't overheat the end mill because it doesn't have a full contact. When we cut plywood, our end mill is fully submerged in plywood, so it's a very big area of contact. Next, plywood edges don't absorb stains evenly. So when you cut the parts, when you sand them, when you fill all the gaps with wood filler, you will apply some kind of stain, and then you will see that the plywood is not absorbing it evenly, because in the plywood the grain is cross-sected, and you always have some kind of a end grain in the plywood layer, and that end grains, they absorb the stain, whatever stain you use. There are several ways how to avoid that. So first, you can use a clear stain before you apply the color stain, but then the color will be not so vivid. Or you can apply one layer of stain and then resand again, and then next layers will be smoother, because the smoother you sand the edge, less stain it will absorb. But generally my solution is to use paint. I really like painted plywood. I don't know why people don't like it. Next is the chatter. So the chatter is happening when your part is not fixed properly and it's vibrating, and that vibration causes wavy cut, and then you have to remove it with sanding. So there are ways how to remove chatter, but we will not go into this in this video. Next is insufficient voltage in most controllers. I don't know why, but most controllers run on 24 volts, while stepper motors NEMA 23 are best ran at 50 volts or at least 48 volts. And so the only way to change it is to have a controller separate from your drivers, and then drivers are powered separately. That's an inconvenience. Next, cutting things is the easy part. Even selling products is not that hard. Letting people know about your products is either hard or expensive. So yeah, you either need to make content or run your social media, or you need to run ads, but generally no one knows about you, no one cares about your product. So even if it's really good, a lot of people need to know about it for someone to buy. Having good items is not enough, unfortunately, to have a good business. Next, you don't need a powerful water-cooled spindle for wood. Water-cooled spindles, like 2.2 kilowatts, they are mostly designed for cutting metals on slower speeds. The spindle is actually the opposite from the stepper motors. It has less torque on slow speeds and higher torque on higher speeds. And because we are cutting plywood at like 15,000 RPM, 18,000 RPM, we don't need actually a very powerful spindle to cut plywood. And also, I actually downgraded my water-cooled spindle. I had 2.2 water-cooled spindle, but then I downgraded to air-cooled 1.5 kilowatt, and it's cutting plywood perfectly fine. And maybe it's a little bit more noisy, but it's so light. I mean, it's like twice lighter, and my machine can work faster with a lighter spindle. You don't need a big machine to make furniture. I hope my designs proving that. All of my designs fit into 16 by 32 inch area, or 24 by 24 inches, which is the size of a big microwave. And I will try to continue making my furniture fit into smaller machines, so you can use my plans. By the way, go to make.better.furniture if you want to see my plans and buy them. There's one free plan if you want, Spark chair, and try them out. And if you don't like them, build something on your own, just following the same principles. You can use any shapes. You don't need to know electronics or solder to build a custom CNC machine. In most of the cases, you don't need that knowledge. Maybe I heard in Australia you need to have some kind of certification just to splinter the wire. But in general, you can learn on the go. And I didn't know much about electronics. I didn't know how to solder, but I learned, and it's fun. And most of the things are plug and play actually in CNC world. With proper approach, the machine will pay for itself in a single order. So it could be an inexpensive hobby. If you own a garage and build a machine yourself, basically if you build a machine yourself, it will cost you like $2,000-$3,000, and then you can make several chairs that you sell at a higher price. So in the furniture industry, $3,000 is nothing. If you are making high-class VIP finishing and adding some upholstery to it, I'm sure you can charge at least $800 per chair or something. Next, 3D printer and laser machines are also CNC machines, and it's cheaper to start with them. I honestly came from 3D printing, I didn't know anything about woodworking before that. So I actually 3D printed my first CNC machine. It was a lowrider version 2, I think. And it was an amazing machine to learn the stuff and to do all the mistakes, because I could reprint any part that I broke. And it was a full-size machine. Highly recommend. They have version 4 now. It's a perfect tool to study CNC machines cheaply. And the printer, 3D printer, is also a CNC machine. Actually, my first CNC machine, I converted my 3D printer into a CNC machine using a Dremel. Yeah, that was, I think, in 2019, so 6 years ago. So yeah, maybe if you don't have money for a CNC machine, start with a 3D printer. You still need it. I mean, 3D printer it's a very good tool in a CNC shop. You can print so many different holders and vacuum hoses and whatever. You can print a lot of stuff. I use 3D printer for everything. So buy that first. It has similar principles, similar G code, maybe similar, a little bit different software, but you can still use Fusion 360 to design for 3D printer. And then next one is CNC business is still a business that needs marketing. So don't think that CNC will solve all your problems. CNC machine will just do the cutting precisely and repeatedly without day offs and vacations, but it will not take anything else from you. You still need to market your items, and that will be probably the bottleneck in your business. So it doesn't matter what kind of product you have, it doesn't matter how fast your CNC machine, it doesn't even matter how good you finish those items. The only thing that matters is if you have the audience that knows about your products. It's getting dark. Thank you for watching this video, and subscribe to this channel if you like this kind of videos. I will make more of them.